everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. And today we're going to be building a shelf for our bathroom, and it's going to look something like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to build this shelf slash our new towel rack. So this is our old towel rack. Looks kind of plain, boring, right? So my wife wanted something to add a little bit of character and a little texture to the room, and so I thought, well, let me build this, and she loved it. So I want to share this with you guys on how I built this shelf slash towel rack for a bathroom, all under $15, and this will only take you about 30 minutes. But if you don't have the, like air compressors and other fancy tools, it might take you a little bit longer. So without further ado, let's get started. So let me show you guys what the bathroom looks like before the new shelf. Okay, so we're gonna put one right here, and then we're gonna put this, what do you call it, wall art on the shelf, and the other one will go right there. Okay, so now that we're in my garage, let's go over the materials that you'll need to get started on this project. If you have an electric sander, it's very beneficial. I have a 150 grit already ready to go, a tape measure, a pencil, wood glue, your choice of stain, and I would recommend this Varathane wood stain because it dries in 1 hour versus other brands will take many hours, 8 to 10 to 12 hours. So this is really good product. It applies in one coat. Safety glasses, some latex gloves, a rag, some wood clamps. If you don't have a staple gun, then you can use a screwdriver and what have you, improvise. And maybe a little applicator here, or you can use a rag. And of course, your choice of wood here. So what I bought at Home Depot is 1/8 by 6 by 8 foot Douglas fir. And the wood stain right there for $5. So the wood and that cost me actually under $14, and everything else I already had. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so step one of this project is you're gonna need to figure out how wide of a board you wanna cut. So in this case here, our towel rack is 30 inches from one end to the other, but the piece that actually hangs onto the wall is 24 inches. But my wife wanted 2-inch reveal on each side so that when we hang this on the wall, you can see there's about a 2-inch reveal here, and then again on the other side over here. So measure, figure out what size width board you need, and what you want to do in this case is cut 2 of those pieces, because you're going to take the other piece and you're going to rip it on your table saw so that you get 2 pieces. So in this case, I ripped a piece of 3.5 inches because when I'm done, it's going to sit something like this. You see how that looks? So make sure both pieces are equal length, and then when you put it all together, it's going to look something like this. The shorter piece on top and the wider piece as a backdrop. Okay, next step is going to be taking this 6-inch board and ripping it down to 3.5 inches. And you want to make sure that the table saw blade is just at the above height of the top of the board. Okay, so now that you've got your boards cut to length and the rib to the width that you want, the next step is going to be sanding it down to the finish that of your preference. Here I'm using a Milwaukee sander with a very good filtering system, so I think it picks up about 75% of the particles, and this works extremely well. So let's get started. So I'm using a 150 sand grit paper, and the reason why is I don't want to take off too much too fast, so I think 150 is a good grit to use for this particular project. Okay, let's do the next one here. Okay, so that will do for sanding. Okay, so now at this point we're ready to put things together. So before we do that, let's clean our workspace and get the dust off the boards, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, so at this point, I'm ready to put this thing together. So one thing I want to look at is, every board's different. So you take a close look and see what side you want to be revealing side, or what side like for example, this has lots of defects that I'm not particularly want to show. But although it looks cool, but I think this side looks much better. It's got a little more knots and little bird-eye holes that I really like versus this side here. So I'm gonna put this side against the wall where you can't see this. Now I'm gonna look at my shelf and do the same thing. Just kind of take a look to see which side you want people to see and what side you want to hide. Okay, so I think I like this side better. So I'm gonna go something like this. Okay? All right. So now that you figured that out, what I want to do is take some wood glue and put a small bead, excuse me, taking a 6-inch board and put a small bead of glue down the rail. And the reason why you want to put a small bead and don't put too much, because if it squeezes out the edges, then you got to do a good job of cleaning that. Otherwise, the stain will have a difficult time adhering to that area where you have exposed glue. So if you feel like you put too much, just take a rag and just wipe it up. That will save you some headaches later on. Okay. Okay, so this is gonna be my bottom and that's my top. I'm gonna take my wood clamps and hold it there until I can tack it with my stapler. That looks good. Make sure that the edges here is flush with the top piece and bottom piece so that when you put it against the wall, it'll fit nice and flush. And that looks good there. The length looks good. Let's push it towards the other way just a little bit. There, that's a little better. Let's clamp it down. Okay. So again, just double check, make sure I don't have any glue lines coming through. And it looks good. So it's now a matter of just stapling this. Again, this is where having the right tool really helps to make the job much easier. If you have a staple gun, you want to make sure that you're perfectly straight up and down. because as you staple, you don't want the other end spiking out, the exposed area. So make sure it's nice and straight up and down. And I'm putting staples in about every 6 inches. Okay. Okay, now I can take my clamps off. There you go. So this whole process took about 15 minutes to cutting it, to ripping it, sanding it, and getting to this part here. So this is the part that I really enjoy. This is where you can see your work come to life. So what I like to do is when you take the wood stain here, just shake it a little bit. You don't need to mix it much like the latex paint. Okay. And like I said before earlier, this the Varathane brand here, the one coat stain, it goes on very quick. It almost applies like latex paint. It looks heavy at first. So let's take a look here. It almost goes on like acrylic paint. And you can see it's very, very dark. And mind you, this is an ebony color stain, so it's gonna come out black. And you might think, oh wow, this dude's putting it on really heavy. No, not really. It just looks like I'm putting on heavy, but it's not heavy at all. In fact, the brush barely fits into this can. But what I like to do is get it on there nice and good, nice and even. Because when you're done, I'm gonna let it sit for a few minutes and then wipe it off with a rag. And that's where the magic happens. Excuse me. Little dust particles flying around. And a little stain goes absolutely a long ways. Grab, pour down here. I'm not so worried about staining the backside. If you want to stain the backside, the side that will be mounted to the wall, that's up to you. But personally, I think that's just wasted material. Like wax on, wax off. And let's do the other side here. Basically want to cover all the yellow on the wood. Okay. And this is the shelf, the exposed side. I don't know, I'm getting really excited to see what it looks like. Now, if you remember those staples I put in here, you can see those staples just a skosh. If you're worried about seeing those staples, you can take some wood putty and just cover this wood putty up. That'll take care of that problem. Okay. All right. So that looks good to me there. Okay, so take a clean rag. At this point, you can come back and just wipe it up. And you can see all the wood grains from this Douglas fir come to life. There. There's a little bit of hint of brown in there still, but it looks very antique looking. So if you like that look, okay, you see that? That is just one coat. That's amazing. So you just gotta be careful where you grab, you know, after it's been stained, because it will leave those fingerprints if you're not careful. So that's why I leave the bottom side unstained. That way I got a place to grab something without making a mess. And if you feel like, hey, I need another coat, go for it. But I think you'll find that this particular brand, one coat is all you're gonna need. Now, I've done a lot of staining in the past, and you know, never been a big fan of black, but I don't know if you can see this. This is really nice ebony stain color. You can still see the remnants of the grain, and I think it looks pretty darn good. Wow. So let's go ahead and let that dry. The instruction says it dries in 1 hour, so we'll come back, see how it looks, and then we'll tack it on the wall in the bathroom. That's really great. Okay, so now that's solid. So everything is solid and level, we're good to go. So the only thing left to do on this project is to come back and fill in these screw holes that's anchored down to the studs. So I'll come back with some wood putty, fill that in, and I'll take a little dab of the same stain to go over so it'll hide those screws on both sides. Okay, well this completes our towel rack project. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video and inspired you to go out and make your own towel racks. So I'd love to hear your comments on what you guys think. If you want to see some more videos like this, please leave me comments down below, because I've got a few projects coming up I think you're gonna really like and want to watch. So again, thanks for watching.